August 1923. The nation was shocked by the sudden death of President Warren G. Harding. Today, we'll witness his final journey through seldom seen films from the archives. We'll follow his body from a San Francisco hotel across the country by train to the somber ceremonies in Washington, D.C., and his final resting place. Get ready to see some rare footage and learn some hidden stories about President Warren G. Harding and his funeral.
Americanism really began when robed in nationality. The American Republic began the blaze trail of representative popular government. Representative democracy was proclaimed the safe agency of highest human freedom. America headed the forward procession of civil, human, and religious liberties, which ultimately will affect the liberation of all mankind. The federal Constitution is the very base of all Americanism, the ark of the covenant of American liberty, the very temple of equal rights. The Constitution does abide and ever will, so long as the Republic survives.
Before his untimely death, President Harding embarked on a long trip across the western United States and Alaska. Officially, this voyage of understanding was meant to allow the president to connect with the American people and discuss important issues. However, Harding had not been in good health for some time. He was dealing with high blood pressure and an enlarged heart. Many believe the trip was also intended to give him a break from the pressures and emerging scandals in Washington. Before reaching San Francisco, Harding traveled through several states, including Ohio, Kansas, Wyoming, and Utah, even venturing into Alaska and Canada. His schedule was incredibly packed with speeches and public appearances. It seems the demanding pace likely took a toll on his already fragile health. Reports suggest President Harding started feeling unwell early in his trip, complaining of stomach issues. By the time he arrived in San Francisco at the end of July 1923, he was visibly tired and not feeling himself. Despite his condition, he delivered a speech. However, his health rapidly declined while staying at the Plaza Hotel. Doctors were called in, but his condition worsened. On August 2nd, 1923, Warren G. Harding passed away in his hotel room. The nation was stunned. The archival silent film now captures the somber scene in San Francisco. You can see the president's casket being carefully carried from the Palace Hotel. The mood is heavy with grief and respect. Officials and military personnel are present, their expressions reflecting the gravity of the moment. The American flag is draped over the casket, a powerful symbol of the leader the nation had lost. The body is then placed onto a waiting vehicle, beginning its long journey back east. The same train that President Harding and his entourage had used for their Western tour now carried his body back to Washington, D.C. As the funeral train made its slow progress across the country, thousands of Americans lined the tracks in towns and cities along the way. They stood silently, many with their heads bowed, paying their respects to the fallen leader. The spontaneous outpouring of grief shows the deep impact Harding had made on the American people, despite the controversy that would later emerge. Once President Harding's casket arrived in Washington, D.C., it was taken to the White House and placed in state in the East Room. The casket is transferred with great ceremony to a horse-drawn caisson, a military wagon traditionally used for funerals. A solemn procession began through the streets of the capital. You can see military units marching with measured steps, their uniforms sharp against the somber occasion. Dignitaries and officials followed behind the caisson. Crowd lining the streets are enormous, their faces etched with sadness as they witness this mournful event. Vice President Calvin Coolidge was vacationing at his family's farm in Vermont when he received the news of President Harding's death. In the early hours of August 3rd, 1923, in the simple parlor of that farmhouse, Calvin Coolidge took the oath of office by the light of a kerosene lamp, becoming the 30th President of the United States. Here's a fun find from the archives, a telegram from the Secretary of the Navy closing all naval yards and stations in memory of the late president. The telegram reads, "As mark of respect to the memory of President Harding, all naval yards and stations will be closed on Friday, August 10th, 1923, comma, the day of the funeral. Stop. All the employees of the naval establishments where services can be spared shall receive a full day's pay without the rendition of services on that day, 1700. Signed, the Secretary of the Navy." Behind the casket came President Calvin Coolidge, ex-President Woodrow Wilson, and ex-President Taft, who was now the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. After that were the cabinet members, diplomats, senators, representatives, governors, district commissioners, and other officials. After the procession, a brief funeral service was held in the Capitol Rotunda. After the service, between the hours of 12:30 and 4:30, more than 30,000 citizen mourners marched past the casket. President Harding was a Marion, Ohio native. After this Washington, D.C. funeral, the president's body was transported by the same train back home to Marion for family services and burial. The Marion funeral saw three of the most iconic men of the industrial age in attendance. Harvey Firestone of the Firestone Tire and Rubber Company, and inventor Thomas Edison, both Ohio natives themselves. They joined Henry Ford of Dearborn, Michigan, in paying their final respects to their fallen friend. Just 2 years prior, the men had enjoyed a famous camping expedition together in Maryland with Harding. Make sure to check out our video that tells the story and features unique archival footage of that very same camping trip. After services at President Harding's father's house in Marion, Ohio, a solemn procession took the casket to a receiving vault in the Marion Cemetery. Once the Harding Memorial was completed in 1927, the body was reinterred in the memorial sarcophagus and it was sealed. After his death, efforts began to raise funds for a permanent memorial in Marion. School children across the country contributed their pennies and nickels to honor the late president. The association ultimately received $978,000 in donations from more than 1 million people across the country, as well as contributions from several European nations. However, the Grand Harding Memorial was not dedicated until 1931 by President Hoover. It is thought the delays in the dedication of the memorial were due in part to the Harding administration scandals. These scandals made a dedication trip to Marion an embarrassing proposal for Coolidge and then Hoover. The Harding Memorial Association itself passed a resolution in late 1930 to postpone indefinitely the dedication. Other factors also resulted in the delay. In addition to this memorial in Marion, you can find the Harding Presidential Site that contains his presidential library and family home, the very home he campaigned for president from. Sadly, President Harding's legacy became intertwined with scandals that emerged after his death, most notably the Teapot Dome scandal. Additionally, a book written by his mistress, Nan Britton, claimed he had fathered her child. While initially dismissed by many, DNA testing decades later confirmed her claims about having Harding's illegitimate daughter. In addition, a controversial book titled The Strange Death of President Harding also appeared, making false and unproven claims that his wife, Florence Harding, had poisoned him. But the claims have been widely discredited by historians. The death and funeral of Warren G. Harding marked a significant moment in American history, a time of national mourning overshadowed by emerging controversies. These rare silent films offer a powerful glimpse into that era, reminding us of the complexities of leadership and the enduring impact of a president's past. Thank you for joining us today. We invite you to watch all our videos, from famous funerals to diving into the archives, to find generations of history.